I had been looking forward to my brother Daniel's wedding for months. Weddings in our family were always extravagant, full of laughter, music, and an overwhelming sense of celebration. I imagined being swept up in the joy of the day, surrounded by family, watching Daniel marry the love of his life. I expected warmth, camaraderie, and, above all, inclusion. I could not have anticipated the humiliation that awaited me. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Flowers lined the aisle. The music swelled as Daniel and his fiancée, Lila, exchanged vows, and I felt genuinely happy for them. But the first sign that something was amiss came during the reception. I had been casually mingling with guests, smiling, laughing, and congratulating the newlyweds, when one of the staff approached me. "Your seat is over there," she said, gesturing to a small folding chair tucked in a corner by the kitchen. My smile faltered. I glanced around the grand dining hall. Long tables adorned with silk runners, gold-plated chairs, and elegantly set places for all the guests. And then I saw it. My seat, a simple, foldable chair tucked far from the main tables, near the bustling kitchen where staff moved trays of food and drinks. I turned to Lila, hoping this was some misunderstanding, some seating mishap. Her response, however, made my stomach drop. She smiled sweetly, almost patronizingly, and said, "It's just for you." My heart sank. The humiliation hit me like a wave. Everyone else was seated comfortably among family and friends, enjoying the celebration, while I was relegated to a corner, as if my presence were barely tolerated. The folding chair was more than a seat. It was a statement, a symbolic exile from the joy and inclusion of the day. I forced a polite smile and thanked her, but inside, anger and disbelief raged. I had never imagined my brother or his fiancée would treat me this way, especially on a day meant to celebrate love, family, and unity. I considered confronting them immediately, but I knew the timing was delicate. The wedding was ongoing, cameras flashing, guests watching. Any outburst would create a scene, turning the joyous occasion into a battleground. I had to think strategically, to navigate this humiliation with dignity. Sitting on that folding chair, I observed everything carefully. The laughter, the dancing, the speeches, all moments I should have been sharing, unfolded around me. But as I watched, a quiet resolve began to build. I realized that while I couldn't control their choices or the embarrassment they imposed, I could control my response. This wasn't just about a chair. It was about asserting my self-respect without giving them the satisfaction of seeing me break. When the toasts began, I chose my moment. Daniel's friends raised their glasses, sharing heartfelt memories and jokes, and laughter rippled through the hall. I waited until the speeches had concluded, then rose from my folding chair, letting the quiet murmur of curiosity ripple through the guests. I walked toward the center of the room, confident, composed, and commanding attention without raising my voice. "I just want to say," I began, my voice clear and steady, "that I am genuinely happy for Daniel and Lila. Today is about love, family, and celebration. And while my seat may have been a folding chair near the kitchen, my presence here is nothing less than full participation in their joy. I hope everyone can join me in celebrating not just the union of two people, but the bonds that connect us as a family." The room fell silent for a moment. Then a ripple of applause followed. My brother looked shocked, his fiancée's smile faltering as she realized the quiet dignity with which I had turned their slight into a moment of personal strength. I returned to my folding chair, but I did so with my head held high, knowing that I had reclaimed control of the narrative without resorting to anger or confrontation. As the evening progressed, I noticed subtle changes. Guests who had initially overlooked me came over to engage, acknowledging my presence with warmth and respect. Even Daniel approached later, his face a mixture of guilt and admiration. "I didn't realize," he murmured. "I should have made sure you had a proper seat." I nodded, accepting the apology silently. understanding that the real victory wasn't in forcing recognition, but in maintaining dignity in the face of slight. By the time the dancing began, I was no longer just the person in the folding chair. I was someone who had demonstrated composure, confidence, and grace under pressure. Guests sought my company. My laughter became part of the celebration, and even Lila seemed aware that her attempt at exclusion had failed to diminish my presence. The folding chair, intended as a symbol of humiliation, had instead become a stage for quiet triumph. Reflecting on the evening later, I realized several important lessons. First, dignity is maintained not through retaliation, but through calm, assertive action. Second, humiliation loses its power when met with composure and intelligence. And third, true inclusion is not defined by a seat at a table, but by the strength and confidence one carries within. In the weeks that followed, the story of the folding chair became a quiet legend among our family and friends, not as a tale of insult, but as a testament to poise, resilience, and personal strength. Daniel and Lila, while initially taken aback, eventually recognized the error in their judgment and treated me with the respect I had always deserved. The wedding, despite its initial embarrassment, became a defining moment in my life. It was a lesson in self-respect, strategic response, and the power of composure. The folding chair was more than a seat. It was a symbol of the challenges life can impose and the grace with which we can rise above them. Even now, years later, I remember that night not with anger, but with a sense of quiet pride. I had transformed a moment of intended humiliation into an opportunity to demonstrate strength, to assert my presence, and to show that dignity cannot be dictated by others. In the end, it was not the chair that defined the night, but the way I carried myself in it.